This week on Lumix Unofficial, Panasonic's October 17th event was not about a new camera, but a major push in software and firmware. The L-Mount Alliance gets a new autofocus lens from Suré, and Viltrox confirms its L-Mount plans. And Blackmagic's Pixus 6K gets put to work on a professional shoot. And in this week's quiz, which camera company first introduced in-body image stabilization? Is it A. Canon, B. Nikon, C. Minolta, or D. Olympus? Go ahead and write your answers in the comments, and we'll reveal the correct one at the end of the show. We'll start with the official news from Panasonic. The much-anticipated October 17th live stream did not reveal new hardware. Instead, Panasonic announced a suite of significant firmware and software updates. For the Lumix S52 and S52X, new firmware updates, version 3.4 and 2.4 respectively, were released on October 19th. These updates add powerful new features to the existing volume photography system. Assessing these specialized volume photography features requires the purchase of the $199.99 volume photography key. Panasonic also updated its mobile app. The Lumix Lab app, now at version 2.0, introduces a AI-powered feature called Magic LUT, which can generate a custom lookup table from a reference image. This LUT can then be transferred to a Lumix camera for use while shooting. The Lumix Flow app was updated to version 1.3, expanding support to the S52 and the S52X and the GH7. It's important to note that while these cameras received the update, the newer S1 series cameras did not. Panasonic has stated that these enhancements will be available for the S12 and S12E and S1R2 in a future update. New features for the currently supported models include LUT View Assist in the app and the ability to mirror a camera's feeds to up to 4 devices simultaneously. In other news, the Lumix S12 saw a significant but temporary price drop of about $600 at major retailers this week. Some speculated that the price drop was permanent, but it turned out not to be. The price has since returned to its original level. This was followed by a technical review from SignD, which, while testing the new Nikon ZR cinema camera, highlighted that the S12 delivers 2.5 stops more dynamic range in ProRes RAW with its dynamic range boost feature enabled.
If we just look at the recent Panasonic S12, for instance, it showed 2.5 stops more dynamic range at the same signal-to-noise ratio of 2 value. It showed 12:9, almost 13 stops of dynamic range here.
Why are we comparing those cameras? Maybe we can kind of tell the whole story. I mean, it's not a secret that the Nikon ZR is basically using the same components of the Nikon Z6 III.
Exactly.
And which is the partial stack sensor, which is very similar in terms of, again, every company is implementing it differently, as we can see. But it's a very similar, I guess it's very, very similar, no?
We don't know. We can assume it's maybe similar to the Panasonic S12, we don't know.
We don't know.
But in essence, it sort of seems to be a trade-off always between readout speed, which is very good, as mentioned.
To rolling shutter, I guess.
To rolling shutter.
Okay.
So readout speed versus dynamic range. If you have a fast sensor with a fast readout, you get a low dynamic range figure. If you have a slow readout speed, you get high dynamic range figures. Panasonic did a clever thing. They basically gave users an option. You want to have a dynamic range boost. Then you sacrifice readout speed, but it would basically boost the dynamic range by doing 2 different readouts at different ISO values, and thus you can gain 2.5 stops with that mode, which is fantastic.
Okay, so just not to confuse the people, the reason we are kind of comparing the Nikon ZR to the Panasonic Lumix S12 because both have partial stacked sensor.
Yes, and they look similar on paper, but we cannot be sure if it is the same sensor.
Okay.
But basically what we can conclude is Panasonic is like...
the implementation is
different. The implementation is very much different, and they are able to get much more out of this similar sensor.
Okay, so my next question will be, because Nikon is claiming 15 plus stops of dynamic range, and you mentioned now 10 point, and 11 point.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that's where marketing kicks in, or do you see any reason why they would have come up with such a number?
Let's call it marketing.
Finally, from Panasonic's broadcast division, the company announced that its AKU-CX100 4K studio camera will receive an autofocus function via firmware update, scheduled for September 2025. This will be a world's first for that class of camera. Now for an update on the L-Mount Alliance. The biggest news comes from Suré. Their new Aurora 35mm f1.4 full-frame autofocus lens is now available for sale for L-Mount. This is the company's second full-frame autofocus prime for the system, following the 85mm f1.4. Viltrox, which joined the alliance back in September, held a Reddit Ask Me Anything session. A company representative confirmed that their first L-Mount lenses are in development now, stating the earliest release will likely be in the early part of next year. Blackmagic Design issued a press release on October 20th detailing the use of the Pixus 6K camera, which is available with an L-Mount, on a professional commercial shoot for the company iPlanet. The director of photography noted that the camera's robust body was ideal for complex vehicle rigging. Following last week's report on the 3 lenses that were announced by Sigma, there hasn't been any new developments from the company this week. It was also a quiet week for Leica, Samyang, and DJI, with no new product announcements or firmware updates coming from them directly that we can confirm. In third-party news, TT Artisans was active this week. On October 23rd, the company announced a new silver edition of its autofocus 75mm f2 full-frame lens, which is available for L-Mount. The lens features a STM autofocus motor, a 10-element optical design, and a 62mm filter thread, and weighs approximately 329 grams. Also this week, the first reviews of TT Artisan's new 17mm f4 tilt shift lens for L-Mount began to appear online. And in accessories, Peak Design announced a new Arca Swiss compatible field plate on October 23rd. For our Micro Four Thirds users, the firmware updates announced by Panasonic also bring new features to the GH7 and G92. Both cameras receive support for the updated Lumix Flow app version 1.3 improved, startup times, and new focus ring customization options. And to feature the great work being done on the Micro Four Thirds system, we'd like to invite you to submit photos you've taken with your Micro Four Thirds cameras. We'll be looking to showcase some of the best submissions. Just send them to the email address listed in the description. We'll be looking to showcase some of the best submissions in the next episode. Now, in a new segment that I've titled The Trenches, we're going to talk about what's online on social media. Last week, we mentioned some community chatter about potential autofocus issues with the new TT Artisan's 40mm f2 lens. This week, the discussion has continued with a range of user experiences. It's important to remember this is all user feedback, not official testing. Some users have reported that the autofocus can be hit or miss, particularly away from the center of frame, and that the motor can be noisy when hunting for focus. One reviewer even reported that their copy of the lens failed completely shortly after they began testing it. However, other users have said that while the autofocus isn't the fastest, it's perfectly acceptable for the price, and they praise the lens for its compact size that pairs well with cameras like the Lumix S9. Other community discussions this week included users giving feedback on the new Lumix Flow app, with some noting a clunky user interface when used on an iPad. I've noticed some lag with Lumix Lab. When I start it, it seems to take just a little bit longer to boot up. There was also a call from manual lens users for Panasonic to add a focus confirmation feature similar to the green box found on some Nikon cameras to make manual focusing with eye detection easier. And in competitor news, chatter is picking up about a potential Canon R6 Mark III announcement, rumored for as early as November 5th. This was recently discussed on the YouTube channel livestream Creative Fam Live, adding to the speculation about what other brands have in store for the end of the year. Creative Fam Live features Brandon Washington and co-host Jarrell. This week's episode guest starred Brandon Talbot. Finally, in a story that's been making rounds on social media, some users of the new iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max are reporting a strange issue. The standout cosmic orange color is apparently shifting to a pinkish tint on some devices. According to reports, this may be due to the anodized aluminum finish reacting with common chemicals like hydrogen peroxide, which can be found in cosmetics and cleaning products. Since the phone is the camera many of us always have with us, It's a curious development worth noting. Here are a few notable videos from the community this week. Number 1 is I'm Stupid for This by Jeremiah Cook. Number 2 by Gary Scaffey. Watch this before you buy another Lumix lens, where he puts up the Lumix 1.8 35mm against the new Aurora 35mm. Number 3 is Kofi Yaboya, My First Weeks with the Pixus 12K. Number 4, Josh Cameron, Fuji built the JPEG hype, but Lumix perfected it. Number 5, Vu Nguyen, E-mount lenses won't save Sony from Lumix, Nikon, and Canon cameras. I'm gonna butcher this name. Matthias Dangle, why I finally switched from Sony to Lumix, which is a great watch. Here's the answer to today's quiz. Earlier I asked which camera company first introduced in-body stabilization. The answer is Minolta. They introduced the technology which they called anti-shake in their 2003 bridge camera, the Dimage A1. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also head on over to the Lumix Unofficial channel that's linked at the bottom and subscribe there as well. Please enable the notifications so you can stay up to date with all the latest L-Mount and Lumix news.